Haven't you noticed?
We take a break.
I don't pay attention.
Good evening, everyone. This is our June 14th Oak Island Town Council regular meeting. We've got a rather full agenda. Councilman Blaylock, if you'd lead us through the invocation and pledge, please.
Dear Heavenly Father, bless us and give us the wisdom to make decisions that are best for our community. In your holy name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Public hearing and actions. Mr. Hatton, will you share, please, the new information about the budget we have?
I've got a couple of very small changes that we made since we presented the budget draft to council and to the public. The new assessment for calculating the ad valorem tax has increased to $3,500,538.619. And this new assessment generated the following increases. On the general fund tax, we increased that amount that was originally presented with $15,346. And beach nourishment, the beach nourishment fund 47, we've increased that $3,336 for a total net increase in ad valorem of $18,682. State sales tax collections, we've upped that allocation a little bit based on information we've gotten from the league. That increase went from $3,076,000 to $3,106,000, or an increase of $30,458. This is on the general fund. So the total increase in revenue at this point is $49,140. On the expense side, the big item that we had to change at this point was liability insurance. We'd estimated it at $220,300, and it's been updated, and the latest bill from the state is $254,800. So I upped the line item for liability insurance, $34,500. And that's the only changes that we have made. Okay.
Thank you very much. So at this time, we'll open the public hearing one. The purpose of this public hearing is to receive comments on the proposed FY 22-23 budget, which is on page 4 if you're following along. If we can keep presentations to 3 minutes, it would be appreciated. If you have written comments, if you'd please leave them with Lisa Stites, the clerk of court, so the full message can be included in the notes.
Okay, first we have Chip Frazier. And Mr. Frazier, I do have your comments. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Chip Frazier. My address is 706 West Dolphin Drive on Oak Island. In my opinion, if any entity provides a public service and receives funds from Oak Island tax revenue, that organization has an obligation to the public to operate transparently. The Oak Island Sea Turtle Protection Program is sanctioned by the North Carolina Wildlife Resources Commission and the Oak Island Parks and Recreation Office. As friends of the sea turtles, the Oak Island Sea Turtle Protection Program is seeking financial support in the 2022-2023 budget. Refer to line item 10-411-3329. However, in my opinion, the Oak Island Sea Turtle Protection Program is not operating transparently. It does not make information pertaining to its activities available to residents of Oak Island and the public in general. It does not disclose, for example, specific turtle nest locations, dates that the nests are laid or expected to hatch, dates that the nests are excavated. In some situations, the Oak Island Sea Turtle Protection Program behaviors discourage public interaction. The Oak Island Sea Turtle Protection Program contends that the North Carolina Wildlife Resources Commission requires that a degree of secrecy be preserved to protect sea turtles. And it also has threatened people with federal prosecution if they provide information to the public about nest locations and relevant dates. It is generally accepted that the protection of sea turtles is enhanced when the public participates in the turtle's life cycle. The North Carolina Wildlife Resource Commission Handbook for Turtle Volunteers states on page 19, although the presence of large crowds can make excavations more challenging, they also are a great opportunity for raising public awareness of sea turtle conservation. The director of the North Carolina Wildlife Resource Commission Sea Turtle Nest Monitoring System, Dr. Matthew Godfrey, confirmed to me that there are no federal or state restrictions on informing the public about the location of the nests or the dates the nests are laid or may boil or are excavated. Additionally, Karen Clark, a North Carolina Wildlife Resource Commission program coordinator, confirmed to me that in the absence of federal and state requirements, local organizations involved in sea turtle nest monitoring system establish local operating procedures. Oak Island and Caswell Beach have the highest concentration of sea turtle nests per mile of all the North Carolina barrier islands. And Oak Island has the largest concentration of nests monitored by volunteers. Oak Island should capitalize on this unique attribute. Despite its penchant for secrecy, the Oak Island Sea Turtle Protection Program does an effective job of protecting our sea turtle population. However, the town council should stipulate that the Oak Island Sea Turtle Protection Program
Chip.
operate more transparently.
Excuse me, your time is up. How much more do you have?
One sentence. The town council should stipulate that the Oak Island Sea Turtle Protection Program operate more transparently and encourage public awareness in protecting endangered sea turtles by making public the location of the nest, the dates nests were laid, the dates nests are within 55 days of boil, the dates the nests boil, and the dates nests are excavated. Thank you for the opportunity to make comment.
Thank you very much.
Dara Royal.
Darrell Royal, 216 Northeast 47th Street. Good evening, Madam Mayor and council members. A budget is a financial plan for the year, and the challenge is to execute that plan. There are two things in the plan that I'd like to draw your attention to where I think we may be being penny wise and pound foolish. One is yard debris. That's the solid waste fund, as you know. Yard debris pickup serves several important roles. One of those is public safety. Being piled up on the side of the road, that's a public safety issue for long periods of time. And public safety certainly was one of this council's priorities this year. Another important role that it plays is in tree preservation. And thirdly, just community aesthetics. We used to have once a month pickup, went to once every 2 months a week, 2 months pickup. On our street, it's been once every 4 months for leaves and limbs, regardless of whether which truck was not working during that time. So I would encourage you, that is something that you can change before next budget, and I would encourage you to look into setting the solid waste fees for whatever it's going to take to have an efficient yard debris pickup service. The other thing I'd like to point out is the street paving. We've done well with that the last couple of years, particularly this past year. But we're going back in this budget to just Powell bill funds. Powell bill was never intended to be the only source of revenue, just a supplement for revenues. Certainly, the motor vehicle tax would seem like a appropriate pot of money to marry with that, to do more during the year. And of course, the general fund tax rate, revenue neutral in 2019, was a little over 24 cents. That was reduced a penny to 23 cents. And that money diverted to the sand tax. Of course, you're going to set the rate what you set it tonight, but I encourage you in the near future to look at bringing the general fund tax rate back to revenue neutral and supplementing that sand tax with a municipal service district for the beach area. Thank you for consideration and your time.
Thank you.
And next we have, is it Barry or Danny to speak about the budget? Yes, Danny, thank you.
I'm Danny Dodson, 7004 East Yacht Drive. Thank you, Madam Mayor, council members, and staff for allowing me to speak this evening. Just some general comments. Because you have additional revenue does not mean you have to spend it all. The 14.75% increase in the budget, I believe, that is being proposed, I would hope that the rainy day fund and general fund that is, that you have to do, increase that as well, because good times aren't always here. Reiterating on the streets that lady before me spoke of, we all go up and down these streets. Some of them are terrible. I would hope that we have a plan to get all of them back into shape sooner rather than later. Too many reverse speed bumps on most of the streets in the city. If you ride golf carts up and down them, or even automobiles, you can see the problem with that. Thirdly, excuse me, probably not going to fall too well, but when I believe it's 40.7% exactly of your budget goes to fire, law enforcement, rescue, be careful. We need them, I support them, and we want them, but be careful of the budgeted dollars that go to those three organizations. A wise sage once told me, if you want your budget busted, give them everything they ask for. Thank you for your time.
That is all I had signed up for the budget.
Thank you.
I'll make a motion that the public hearing be closed.
Second.
All in favor? Unanimous. Public hearing 2 and action on a quasi-judicial hearing. This is a holdover from a special use permit on 6963 Kings Lynn Drive. Mr. Eads, I'm going to pass this to you.
Yes, ma'am, Madam Mayor. To clarify, if you recall, on April 12th, or during the April 12th, 2022 meeting, we conducted an evidentiary hearing on this matter. We closed that hearing, and then a motion was made. That motion failed, but there was no further deliberation. That motion was a motion to approve. However, there was no following motion to deny or an alternative motion to approve, nor was there any deliberation as to whether the evidence adduced during the hearing met or did not meet the criteria contained within Chapter 4.9 of our Code of Ordinances. So staff advertised this so we could reconvene the deliberation portion of that hearing to entertain any other motion than the motion that was made at the April 12th meeting. And I'll be happy to answer any questions you have. I believe at least the draft minutes are in this board packet, am I correct, Madam Clerk? Which have all been disseminated to you under North Carolina and under our Code of Ordinances. If a person submits a special use permit application, they have the burden of proof to prove by competent, substantial, and relevant evidence that their application meets the criteria found in our ordinance. If they do meet that burden and that is not rebutted by contrary evidence, then as stated in our ordinance, the town council shall issue the special use permit. And that's consistent with Chapter 160D of the North Carolina General Statute. So that's where we are. I'll be happy to answer any questions that any of the council may have.
Council members have questions?
Mr. Eads, if I could just note, I'm not sure how you want to handle this. We did have 2 people sign up for the public hearing.
Well, we closed the public hearing last month, and the only reason we're doing this now is because there was technically only one motion that failed. In order to draft a order, if it's not going to be issued, then we would need a prevailing motion to deny. So we've already closed the evidentiary portion of the hearing. We're not allowing staff to put on additional evidence, the applicant or any other party.
After reviewing the minutes from the April 12th meeting and testimony from the last hearing, my opinion has changed. There's no reason to deny based on the requirements of the UDO. Therefore, I make a motion to approve the proposed special use permit and to adopt the associated findings of fact.
I second.
All in favor?
Discussion, Madam Mayor.
Discussion, I'm sorry.
First of all, I have the utmost respect for my colleagues, and they clearly have made a decision to reconsider. I am not willing to reconsider. To me, it is a matter of principle, and I would argue several things. First of all, the standard that's applicable here is in harmony with. That is inherently subjective. But there is data, an absence of impact data. So we have to use our own common sense in terms of trash, traffic congestion, and damage to the ecology. And I was struck by the argument of the petitioner's counsel that, quote, people coming to the island will be happy to recognize that large houses are all in one area. I would submit that our residents recoil from that. The fact is, councils present and past have consistently opposed so-called mega houses because, from my point of view, it's a public fiction. They are not residences. They become large mini hotels, and they are inconsistent with our community vision. I guess I have to ask, has our UDO failed us?
Yes,
I believe it has.
I believe it has.
Are we hamstrung by Raleigh and ridiculous ordinances which strip us of our power to protect our vision locally? To a degree, yes. And so I must vote no. I think this was a mistake, will be a mistake, and is a continuation of overbuilding. And it just, I don't think it's in harmony with, I don't even think it's congruent with what we want to do. That being said, I'm a no.
I'd like to make a comment.
And I do agree with everything he said, but what we need to do is change the UDO so this can't happen again.
My comment would be, and I just want to be on the record, is we have messed that point up so bad. I used to play there as a kid, and it was the place to go. And it's been taken over by these, as you say, hotels. And on the one hand, I would like to say no, because of that. On the other hand, I'm concerned about the legal backlash from if we disapproved it, so. That's all I have to say.
My thoughts are, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, some time ago, the town should have changed the UDO and it never was changed. Now we're living under a law that we don't like. The General Assembly has told us there's 4 criteria that if it's met, we shall say yes. They didn't give us a way out, even if we do not like hotels. Until we change that UDO, our hands are tied. I'd like to ask Mr. Eads, going forward, though, they would still have to get a CAMA minor permit prior to
sir.
construction.
Yes, sir.
And they would still have to get a developmental permit in line with our town's
Yes, sir.
sanctions.
I don't know where they are on the permitting status, but they would most likely have to get a CAMA permit. They would certainly have to comply with the building code and all other sections of the UDO, for example, parking and things of that nature. This is allowing the potential to build this. This is not a one-stop done now,
Correct. Thank you, sir.
if it's approved.
So the vote, I believe, was in favor.
Well, I think you might want to call it again
It wasn't
because
called yet.
Call the question.
Do I have a motion?
First of all, can you calm your audience?
Yeah, I am having trouble hearing.
I can't hear.
Thank you. Audience, thank you.
So there's been a motion and a second to approve and to adopt the associated findings of fact. That's where council is at this moment.
if you want to call the roll now, Madam Clerk.
You know, poll them individually.
Well,
before we
however you
vote in
want to
as a
do it,
whole?
I'm just saying, hands went up, but that was before discussion.
Right.
So I think we should have a clean,
Let's get this clearly on the record. Call the roll.
Okay. Mayor Pro Tem Porebach,
No.
Councilman Bell, Councilman Kraft,
Reluctantly, yes.
Councilman
Also
Bach,
reluctantly, yes.
Councilman Martin.
Yes.
That's 4-1 by my count, with Mayor Pro Tem Bach opposed.
and I just point out, I think as Mr. Bach and maybe someone else had alluded to, I believe we'll have a UDO-type workshop coming ongoing. These are the type of items that we can take a closer look at.
So I appreciate council's sentiment. I hope we sustain the political will to use the tools that are available to us, that in some combination will help us provide a more balanced community as it relates to home size. Is that it, Mr. Eads?
On that item, yes, ma'am. It looks like we're now on presentation, proclamations, and recognitions.
And we have none of those this time. And does anyone have adjustments to the agenda?
I do, Madam Mayor. I'd like to remove item 1.2 for a brief discussion.
Remove it from the consent agenda.
Yes.
Anything else? Can we approve everything else except 1.2?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as amended.
Second.
No, we need a motion to approve the agenda as amended first.
Okay,
Isn't that what you do?
I'll change it back then. I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
Second.
All in favor? Unanimous.
Now, would you like my consent agenda motion?
Actually, now I would like you to go to public comments.
Okay.
So, public comments, general topics and agenda items. If anyone has comments to say, please remember to use your name and tell us your address, and keep your time to 3 minutes, if at all possible.
Excuse me. First, I have Andy Spradley.
Good evening. Andy Spradley, 114 Southeast 6th Street, here for the Oak Island Beach Preservation Group. Members of the council, Madam Mayor. First of all, I want to talk about on Saturday the 11th, we did a spring cleanup. Thank you. We had 53 adults. We had 4 kids. We did 9 miles of beach. We picked up 134 pounds of garbage.
Wow.
And then one of the things I wanted to put in there is 1,943 cigarette butts, of which 501 were just from the Point and Kings Lynn area. So it was great. A huge thank you to everyone that showed up to help out. A special thank you to Eileen Keats, who coordinated this whole thing. It was a great day. You've heard me talk about the Shibuya shade raffle we did. Well, we had a winner. So Shireen Miller of Southport, she was our winner. And we want to give out a special thanks to Strands Outfitters because they donated the shade and they have continued to support us in our efforts. And then a big special here, the Beach Preservationists of 2022. We want to congratulate Cheryl Cook. She is our beach preservationist of this year. She brings so much caring and so much work in helping protect our biggest asset, our beautiful beach. Thank you to Cheryl. Thank you all so much. Thank you, Council.
Thank you for all you do.
Sylvia Garwood.
Good evening, Town Council and Honorable White and the staff here to help support our town. My name is Sylvia Garwood. I live at 113 Southwest 24th Street. I'm nervous. You can hear me shaking. The reason why I'm here is because God has always laid on my heart a desire to help people that are less fortunate. In that, I've been a Special Olympic coach and an advocate for those less fortunate for over 20 years. I'm here this evening because of what most of you all know as mobility devices. This is the brochure that is put out by the police department. I would like to add that in my research, I looked at the Department of Justice requirements from the American Disabilities Act and found that people who are covered entities should allow people with disabilities power-driven mobility devices into their facilities unless it cannot be accommodated legitimately and safely. And you all can read the details of that in the overall act. So the first item that I bring to you of concern is based upon where I live and access to the beach. I live at the west end of the island. To take a mobility device and to get to the beach, I drive 24 blocks up Yacht, cross over at Middleton, and then there is parking and there are different accesses. However, there is no mobility device accesses to the beach in between The locations are 58th Street and 69th Street. So, I'm sorry, 59th at that end and King's, the west end, at that end. So mobility devices actually getting to the beach don't have access. I commend you all on the Moby Mats, went and visited each of the Moby Mats, and want to ask you to please take and rewrite this document that tells you about accesses to the beach and update the handicap accesses and the Moby Mat information because it's incorrect on the website, it's incorrect on this document. Okay, the third item is that several of the Moby Mats, as nice as they are, that you cannot get to them because they put them so far into the sand, you cannot get wheelchair accessibility across them. So the three items in summary, please consider adding a mobility device access between 58th Southeast and the West End for those less fortunate. Please update this document to truly define handicap access and Moby Mat access. And please make the Moby Mats accessible. So I'd like to submit these two documents so you all know that's what I'm requesting that you update, please.
You pass them to the clerk, please. Pass them to Lisa Stites, our clerk.
Gail Baker.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor and Town Council members, good evening. My name is Gail Baker, and I live at 110 Northeast 16th Street. I'm reading this evening for my husband, who's at Fort Jackson, South Carolina, this week. My name is Glenn Baker, and I live at 110 Northeast 16th Street. I am writing this letter concerning the issue of beach access, parking for residents and paid parking for visitors. I believe all beach access should only be for residents with paid parking permit and not for seasonal tourists and other county residents. Property owners pay high taxes to live on the island, and to have these premium spaces taken up by non-residents is wrong. I also believe the town needs to implement paid parking. All other adjacent municipalities have already implemented paid parking. This would provide our town with another revenue stream from the day trippers who visit our beaches and do not contribute to revenue to the upkeep. Is the town council planning on some type of comprehensive plan to address these two issues? It needs to be done, and we cannot continue to kick the can down the road on this issue. It's got to be done. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Chip Frazier.
Chip Frazier, 706 West Dolphin. I'm not sure this is in the right area, but I'll say it anyway and apply it as it fits. The dunes, to you and me, and probably everyone sitting here, are obvious. But there's a problem with being too close to a problem. And what I find in the hours that I spend on the beach is that the preponderance of people I confront, and I do confront them, who are on the dunes don't always understand that what I think and you think are dunes are dunes. The granular composition of our dunes and the manufactured appearance of the dunes strike some people as a berm or a dike, but they don't think of Sahara sand dunes. They don't think of typical beach dunes. So I simply request that the town council give consideration to our dialogue about dunes may not effectively communicate to people who are not familiar with Oak Island that we're talking about the dunes.
Thank you.
Wayne Brookover?
Good evening. My name's Wayne Brookover, 127 Northeast 31st Street. And we have clarified my title with the Parks Department this year. I am the volunteer coordinator for the Ocean Education and Nature Centers. And I just want to give you an update on how the year started. So both sites have been open 2 weeks, 6 days each. And we have had 122 visitors at the Ocean Center, 218 at the Nature Center. We have had 2 homeschool groups, of which the first topic was the dunes and the importance of the dunes. We're addressing them with wildlife pollution and a variety of other topics between now and the end of July. And we did a hurricane presentation to the folks at the community center. So far in 2 weeks, we have addressed 403 people in some manner between the 2 sites and the other things we're doing. So just wanted to let you, the flooring, I know you heard me harp about flooring last year. Issue with lows and availability. So that we thought that was done, but it's not quite, but we're still working on it. And then we have some Oculus visual reality headsets that we're expecting to have in the next week and a half as a new draw to those places. So I just wanted to let the council and the citizens know what we're doing. Oh, and we have a team of approximately 20 volunteers, which is up from 8 last year. And thus far, we've had just over 100 volunteer hours in planning, preparation, and operation of those 2 sites. So thank you, and we hope to see you there.
Thank you.
Thank you for all your team does, Wayne.
That's all I had signed up.
Excellent. We have a motion to close public comment. We don't need a motion. So we'll go right to council reports.
You want to start, Mr. Blunt?
It's up to the mayor.
Who goes first?
Would you like to point to an end of the table, Madam Mayor, and we'll start?
I usually start at that end. Let's start with Mr. Martin.
Sure, I'll go first. I do have a brief report this evening. As it was mentioned earlier in public comment around the budget, public safety and pedestrian accessibility were topics that were in last year's election, and this council heard those comments loud and clear. And so I think you'll see throughout this evening in any budget discussions, we'll talk about public safety, but I did want to point out that we addressed this at our January retreat, and we wanted to try to make an effort to help operators of golf carts or low-speed vehicles understand where they can and cannot operate their golf cart or low-speed vehicle in the town limits of Oak Island. So these new signs have been going up. I think we have 2 up already and some more on the way. So I think you'll see one on East Oak Island Drive, not too far down the street from Town Hall, going westbound. So basically right as the 45-mile-per-hour speed limit comes in to effect, those low-speed vehicles need to get off of East Oak Island Drive. Then there's another sign in another critical area that has a concern for public safety, and that's on Middleton after you cross the Davis Canal. Golf carts are not permitted to enter that traffic light intersection. They have to make the left turn onto White Lane and then exit First Street and get over on Yacht Drive to transfer to other areas of the island. So just wanted to make everyone aware that keep your eyes out. Signs are going up. We're excited about it. Hopefully, it'll help with public safety concerns with operations of golf carts. If you haven't noticed, our law enforcement, our police department has increased enforcement with golf carts. I've actually seen a couple of golf carts pulled over the last couple of weeks, so that's exciting. I think a lot of those are related to child safety seats. So it's also important for everyone to remember that just because you're in a golf cart or a low-speed vehicle, if your child rides in a car seat in your vehicle, they need to ride in a car seat in your golf cart as well. So, thank you.
Mr. Blaylock.
Yes, to follow up on that, reference golf carts, it is a very, very scary situation. I was out the other day, and there was a golf cart going down the road, and Mom and Dad were in front and had a baby about 1 year old sitting on his lap and 3 babies in the back. And I couldn't help myself. It's my old days of what I used to do. I pulled them over.
Lord.
I know. Mr. Eads, did that scare you?
I would like to make a comment at some point, though.
Okay. And I spoke to them about my concerns and that golf carts, people aren't looking for golf carts. They ought to be, but a lot of times they're not. And I think, as again, to follow up, the police department, they have been doing a good job. They've gotten better and better at it, and I am really encouraged by that. The other thing that I'm getting a lot of comments about is what a great job we are doing. Don't look shocked, so was I. Feel free to contact us and talk to us, but we need to know what's going on out there, what the tenure is for all this stuff. And I will try to quit stopping people. I'm done.
Chief Morris may be looking for you later.
Yeah, I saw him squirming out there in the audience, so.
Mr. Kraft.
I haven't pulled anybody over.
Why not?
We have often said after we get the budget behind us, and maybe tonight we will get the budget behind us, that we wanted to go forward with some other ideas that we have. The mayor has often said it, and I have often said, that we would like to have town forums where the townspeople tell us what's on your mind, more than just 3 minutes of talking. Tell us what's on your mind. We tell you what our thoughts are. You tell us a rebuttal. We tell you a follow-up answer. And the town talks to the council. And once we get some of our busy work that has consumed us out of the way, that is coming. Another thing, once we get a budget adopted, the entire council has agreed that we would like to step up our arts and culture. We've talked about even getting some of our tremendous painters here in the neighborhood and tremendous picture takers here in the neighborhood and get their work and put it here in the chambers and let people see the talent we have. So that's stuff that we have coming. Before we even vote on the committees tonight, thank 12 people very much for asking to be on a committee. And it frustrates me when we have 12 very good people asking to be on 5 spots. So 7 people are not going to be put on those 5 spots tonight. And I hope, beyond all hope, that they don't get deterred and figure, well, forget it, they don't want me. We need quality people, and I'm tickled pink that we have 12 people, but I hope the ones who are not put on a committee tonight will stick with us and give us a chance to get them on a committee. That's all I have to say.
In 2016 or 17, we started at was it 17? The town hall meetings, every 3rd or 4th meeting. And we stopped those because of COVID. So maybe we can bring those back. I had the opportunity to attend the North Carolina League of Municipalities 4th annual town and state dinner with Mr. Hatton and Mr. Kelly. I would like to publicly thank Charlie Miller for keeping the lines of communication open with his citizens. We were joined by Bowling Springs, Southport, Holden, Carolina, Curie, and Belleville. And he was very receptive to listening to us, and so we're thankful that he keeps that communication open. I'm hoping that I can, on next month's agenda, put golf cart, a discussion of golf carts on Oak Island Drive. And maybe we can start the paid parking discussion again. I also talked with Mr. Morris, Chief Morris, excuse me, and David Kelly about flags on the beach vehicles for the beach patrol. One more way to let people know the risk of, the risk, the same risk that they use for the thank you, that's my word, riptide current, thank you. I looked over there at Greg, and she was, one of our citizens had actually asked about it, and so I said something to Chief Morris, and he said that one of his officers had just mentioned it, so hopefully that's coming down the pipe. That would be one more way to show what the riptide risk is. So, I'm done.
That's a great idea. That was given to you by a citizen, right?
It was?
Yeah. that's a
Keith
very-
Pitts, actually.
I think we were all a little bit unsettled by Memorial Day weekend. First, obviously, the loss of life. I have asked the administration to produce a report because I believe we need to learn from each of these tragedies and each of these events. And specifically what we can do, if anything, to improve our response time to swimmers in distress. Secondly, to get a set of written protocols for incident command structure so that when multiple agencies respond, it's clear who's doing what, when, et cetera. And lastly, as has been mentioned by one of the speakers this evening, the parking nightmare was beyond the pale this time. And that leads me to several things. One, that we cannot get the UDO audit fast enough for the reasons stated earlier about mega structures, but also other things that we can do to protect our citizens and our community. And yes, I think we're ready to take up paid parking, but let me issue this warning, and I've issued it before, but it bears repeating. There are no easy answers. Do not believe anyone who tells you there's a quick and simple fix. It's not so. It's a wicked problem with quotes around it, because to solve the parking problem, you need to solve the right-of-way problem. And the notion that 8,000 people have a reserved parking space when we have 1,000 spaces, do the math. So this is going to take hard work, deliberation, and a process that involves the public, which we used successfully with the budget, I believe, where people had a chance to hear what council was thinking and formulating. And it is going to be a deliberative process. Anything less will result in another failure. Bear in mind, this has been taken up twice and defeated twice. And the last real poll, 3 times, thank you, Dara. Well, 2 in my experience. The last poll we had, literally in the audience, was 51 to 49, maybe. So, yes, we need to take it up. Something needs to be done. And I'll repeat what I've said many times. Public safety is first and foremost. There has to be a traffic plan that makes sense, does not endanger people. Preservation of property rights, where people are just parking anywhere, walking underneath houses, using hoses. It's out of control. And then lastly, we do need a revenue-enhancing stream if we can get it. So those things are all under consideration, and I want to thank the administration for preparing the report. I know they have some of it done already. Chief Morris has some numbers about the new beach services unit, which I applaud as a major step forward. Thank you, Chief, for that design.
if I may say one more thing.
Go ahead.
I've written down each person that has spoken tonight, and trust me, I take it under advisement. I very serious, try to see what you're trying to say. But as much as anything, and as nervous as you were, Mrs. Garwood, I heard you, ma'am. I just wanted to say that to you.
I just want to, again, reach out to my colleagues, which includes Mr. Eads, Mr. Kelly, Mr. Hatton, Mr. Edwards. Matt, I don't know you as well and haven't worked with you. Rose, certainly, we could not do what we've done without your efforts. And I'm really pleased that in such a relatively short time, we've been able to get so much done. And that only comes with a lot of cooperation and a lot of earnest work behind the scenes. So I'll leave it at that. Consent agenda. Is there anything to be removed?
It's already been removed, I believe.
Item 1.2 is removed. That is the recommendation for audit. Actually, I have no objection to the recommendation for audit. But I would like to make a larger point about,
Wait, this is trying to stop you.
Yeah, I'm sorry, we still need a motion to approve the minutes, which are still on the consent agenda. So,
Yeah, motion to approve the consent agenda as amended.
As amended.
I was out of order when I did it.
Oh.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as amended.
second.
All in favor?
Okay. So my concern with the item removed is not the item, but the process. And we've had discussion for several years now about creating an orderly process for RFPing, requests for proposals, for all our major outsourced contracts, whether it's the auditor or the attorney or right-of-way mowing or technology. Good practice suggests that you issue on a periodic basis, at least every 5 years, an RFP and examine the options. Does two things when you use that kind of best practice fiscally. One, it ensures that your needs as a community or organization are being met because you're specifying what you want, the deliverables that you expect to get, and it also ensures that you're paying, relatively speaking, the best possible cost for the best service. So I'm going to again take this moment to urge the administration to build such a schedule and let council consider how we might go about adopting that formally. With that, I'm done.
Do you want to make a motion to approve that agenda item that you removed?
Yes, I'll gladly approve the recommendation for the audit contained in 1.2. Second?
Second. All in favor? Thank you.
Can I ask, Madam Mayor, before, Mr. Kelly, would you be willing to suggest a schedule to us for RFP for major contracts that are outsourced?
Yes, we will be looking at bringing something to you, and probably sending those out at the December meeting, then have a
Excellent.
90-day turnaround, so we'd have it right after the retreat before the budget process starts, and then we can see where you want to go from that point.
Thank you.
Committee appointments, or have we done the audit contract?
We did. Yeah.
Committee appointments. The first is the Environmental Advisory Committee. We have 8 candidates, 3 positions for terms ending in June 2025, and 1 unexpired term ending in June 2023.
Can we somehow break this up, like do the unexpired term first before we do the regular terms, or?
And I will just mention that one candidate, or one applicant, Maureen Burns, had specifically asked about the unexpired term, but that was the only one that I saw that indicated a preference.
Can I ask something further?
Okay.
Not for this meeting. My colleague, Councilman Kraft, expressed frustration that there are more people seeking to provide service than there are openings. But beyond that, my frustration is when the names are presented alphabetically like this, not everyone gets consideration. And there has to be a better way. I don't know what it is, but I'm open to suggestions, because that to me seems awkward and potentially unfair. So I've read all these names, but we're not about to have a discussion name by name. And it could be the case, I don't know that it is, but the first 3 names on this list could be approved and we'd be done with this. And the last 5 people essentially didn't get public consideration. So I think on a longer term, we need to consider how we do this.
I would expand on that topic, Councilmember Bach, and suggest that we need a longer runway in front of us to consider applicants compared to what we're exposed to today, to the point that I would like the opportunity to be able to have a conversation with applicants and review their background. Some of them write, several sentences about their experience and capabilities, and others may only try to fill in the blank that we provide, which is very small little space on the application. So I would like to see a little bit prolonged time frame where these are advertised as openings and give people an opportunity to apply. I'd like the opportunity to have a conversation either on the phone or face-to-face and ask questions about their interests and their background. And then, yes, I agree, we need a different mechanism in place for a selection process versus an alphabetical order, let's run down the list, so.
I would agree.
Well, along those lines, one way that we could get increased data is to modify the application itself and to request from those seeking to serve further information. We may want to think about what questions we're asking or what information we ask them to provide. And you're right, the spaces are essentially a one-sentence answer. So, but again, that's a down-the-road concern. We're here tonight. They've applied. Go ahead, Madam Mayor.
If I could just mention, I'm sorry, council had previously asked for a review of all the committees, and it might be that some suggestions can be provided. That discussion, I think, was for the July meeting anyway. I can reach out to other towns and see how they do appointments. And as far as having more time to consider them, you consider the applications now in the month that they come open, but we could just bump that up a month. That would be an easy way to handle that. So, just an idea.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor, if I may.
Yes.
And also to address Councilman Bach's concern, we could do written ballots until written signed ballots. That would,
Might be more exciting for the audience.
well, I mean, the way it works is you ballot, you write who you're voting for, you sign it, and then say there's 3 openings, the first 3 people that get enough votes. It kind of takes the whole chance out of where you fall on the list, or if it's alphabetically listed, it's a matter of, this is the person I want to go with, it's a written ballot, and you sign it. So.
I'm not opposed, I just think we need to find a better way, and it sounds like we're going to think about that and come back at the next meeting, and whether it's asking for more information or having some kind of initial screening contact, I don't know that it should be council, it might be the administration, and then a secret ballot or some other form or an electronic ballot would be more equitable, seems to me, so.
Do we,
They're not secret, you have to sign them. But they're written ballots, that way, I mean, I understand the point, because say you have 2 people that are neck and neck and that you want, you certainly wouldn't want the second one to think you didn't want. I understand the concept. The School of Government has a article on that whole process for that very reason. I just wanted to bring that to your attention. Yes, sir.
I was just going to ask, is the committee review material, are we trying to get that to a July agenda? I know, Madam Mayor,
I've been
you're
working
working
on it.
on some of the analysis and providing a write-up around that. Would that be on the July agenda, do we?
We're aiming for the July agenda.
Okay. Is there any urgency to fill these seats before January? January's next month. Or do we, I just hate to move forward under the old process
We're
if
not
we're,
moving to January yet, we're moving to July.
I meant, yeah, you know what I'm saying. So is there any, can we move
up to
to
council.
July or?
Yeah, it's up to council. I mean, the rules state that members that are on a committee can continue to serve until a new person is appointed. So, I mean, if you just pushed it 1 month, that would be.
It would be, I would project then they would not begin service until August, and if that's not critical, but, because I'm not certain we're all going to agree at the July meeting and then
That's a
turn
valid
around.
point, yeah. All right, let's move forward tonight and then we'll have a new process in future years.
Months,
Months.
months.
Months, okay.
Freudian slip there, Mr. Mark.
When I said years, I meant people serving years on boards,
Gotcha.
you know. All right,
So Lisa, do we continue the committee appointments?
That seems to be the will of council, is to move forward with the appointments for tonight.
We have to do that to a specific date, right?
How are we gonna vote, Mayor? How are we gonna vote, like we have been?
Well,
We're deferring this to next month.
if we're following the current process, right, the first one is easy, because there's only one applicant for the unexpired term, and I support her.
I do too.
I do too.
I do
Okay,
too.
that's done. See how easy that is? There you go.
Does her have a name?
Her name is
I-
Maureen.
Maureen
Burns is the only one who applied for the unexpired term.
Yes.
Okay,
well, however,
I
Judy did say any availability. So she did mention the open seats or the unexpired seats, but you're right. Maureen was the only one that specifically specified
Correct.
the unexpired term.
So Alan Deary for one of the full terms.
I have him on my list.
Yeah, he has very strong credentials.
I have him on my list.
Okay.
That's four.
That's four.
Robin, Mark? No, he's not your
No.
selection.
No.
All right, that's 4-1. James Hardy? He on anyone's list? Margaret Johnson, who's the current chair? Unanimous. David Merkel? 4-1. And that's all the positions.
Yes, ma'am.
Appointment to the Recreation Advisory Board, one unexpired term ending March 24. Bill Millard. That's 4-1. John Shading.
One.
So Bill fills the unexpired term. There are two remaining terms ending in 2023 and another in 2024 for the Part 3 Advisory Committee.
And Mayor, I have since learned from Mr. Riley, he contacted me and said that he is not actually a full-time Oak Island resident yet.
Okay, so we can't put him in there until we make that determination in July.
Correct.
Then we move to administrative reports. Mr. Kelly?
Yes, ma'am. We're going to have Chief Morris come up. There he is. He is going to give his report for the beach services and a few other items that he's been looking at going forward.
All right. Good evening, Madam Mayor, council members,
audience. Thank you for your attendance. I'd like to first thank the council for your positive comments about the police department. The officers of the police departments have been working very hard with traffic enforcement and their other duties, and it's been a noticeable change, here in the town here over the last few months. I just want you to know that we appreciate your support. We appreciate the community support as well as for the police department. So just a few things we'll discuss tonight about updating you on some of the things that the police department, there we go. And, okay. The three areas that we'll discuss tonight is the beach services unit. Just a brief review on it. Our new speed trailer that is being positioned throughout the town, what it's doing, what its capabilities are, and how the police department is preparing for the July 4th holiday. So those are the three areas that we'll discuss tonight. So just on our beach services unit, just to rehash or to reiterate the objectives when we started this a few weeks ago was to prevent the damage to the Dune system through staff and officer presence and ordinance enforcement. Patrol our beach access areas and streets for parking violations, and to utilize a drone to spot the violators and address the safety concerns. So those were our three primary objectives when we started the beach services unit. However, it has evolved, slightly, and we have evaluated that unit and reevaluated the unit and made some changes. And I think that it's been successful so far. We've had a few growing pains. Nothing's perfect, but overall, we've got a good, solid staff committed to the beach safety, the preservation of the dunes, and you'll see some numbers here in just a minute about how effective our parking enforcement has been over the last, or since the beach services unit was initiated. So our breakdown of our beach services. And these numbers are only 2 weeks, May 13th through the 31st. Through the 911 system, we received 17 calls of a Dune violation. And as you see on the right hand of the screen, we have done a tremendous amount of education when it comes to the dunes and through parking through the beach services. We have touched base, we have discussed these issues with 543 different people on the beach and with various parking issues, and our unit has issued 262 citations in 2 weeks up and down our 10-mile beach. So as you can see, the parking contains most of the violations for our beach services unit. And our sand dunes, the gentleman on the front row mentioned that the education portion of the dunes have been a very valuable piece of the beach services unit about what is a dune, what's not a dune. And for the most part, we have had a lot of compliance, on the beach with the beach services unit. However, if any member of the beach services unit is challenged, after they have educated, then they write a citation. So that's how we move forward with that. So we try to strike a good balance. So there's our numbers for the first 2 weeks. When we finish up June, I'll report back to you guys on where we are for the month of June.
Good deal.
Very good deal.
Good job.
Yeah. So after the first week of the beach services unit, we brought all the members back in, and we listened to their concerns and reevaluated. We've done some more education with them, and we had some communication issues. We were able to iron those out. So as far as that goes, we are up and running fairly smoothly with the beach services unit 7 days a week still. Our adjustments is we have added parking enforcement more than we initially started with, especially around the pier, and we're going to continue that throughout the holiday season. So we have, as we've moved forward with the beach services, we have ordered first aid kits. So we will carry those on the UTVs help people. We're not gonna jump into the life-saving efforts, but you know, it is a service there that we are gonna offer the first aid kits. We are gonna provide CPR training for the beach services unit here in the next couple weeks. And the aspect that Councilwoman Bell discussed is the UTV beach warning flags. So our UTVs will be flying a rip current flag on the UTVs as they patrol the beach. So it has evolved, evolved a little. We have taken input from the community. We've taken input from our staff as well, to create what we have today. So the second item I'd like to discuss, and I'm sure that you guys have seen our speed trailer. Here it is sitting on East Yacht Drive. We have received so good and negative comments over the speed trailer. I will. But overall, I think that we are getting some really good statistical information from the trailer. Just so you'll know, if you do see it sitting on the side of the road and your car does not register the speed, that does not mean it's not working. It is working. It's just not displaying your speed. So the first few days that we stick it out on the side of the road, we want to capture that raw information, that raw data without it displaying someone's speed, and hopefully get a true and accurate representation of what is really going on the street. So it's working. I assure you that it is. As it sits there over a couple days, we turn on the display, and hopefully that has a calming effect, to the traffic. But so just a few things that it does. It registers and displays the speed. There is a feature on ours that has a blue light that will flash at you if you go by it and you're speeding, just as a reminder. And it records your vehicle, your speed, the timing that cars will go through. And what that will do is help us make sound decisions if we have to change up the traffic pattern, if we need a stop sign, we need some type of device or instrument that slows down traffic. This is really the first step of that to see if we actually have a problem. And I will let you in on just a small secret. It will take your picture if you do speed. So just be aware of that. It's not a very good picture, but it does take a picture.
Smile and wave.
This way. So we have deployed the speed trailer in 4 different locations throughout town so far in the last 4 weeks that we have had it. We've had it on the first place that we had it was Oak Island Drive at Middleton Park, just out in front of Town Hall, just to ensure that the instrument was calibrated correctly, and we checked it. And just so you'll know that on average, about 4,100 cars a day travel past Town Hall here on Oak Island Drive, about 4,100. And our speed is about average is 32 miles per hour, so we're in compliance with speed. Now, I will tell you that every street in the United States people speed on. And there is speeders periodically. However, our average speed in front of Town Hall is 32 miles per hour. We've deployed it on Yopon Drive, and also we've had it on 2 locations on Yacht Drive so far, gathering information, and it was on Yacht Drive, I think, 7 days in 2 different locations. And it's currently on 52nd Street at Pelican Drive capturing data right now. So we are fully using that piece of equipment, and it's coming in handy.
Good deal.
So our third item that I'll briefly discuss with you is how the police department is preparing for the July 4th weekend. Hopefully we will get the influx of people. However, hopefully it will go smooth, and our visitors and people that live here will be safe, and we'll go through the holidays without a major incident. So just some numbers here about how we're going to deploy our resources for the police department on July 1st, which is a big day for the town. We have the fireworks and other activities going on throughout the town. We'll have 22 police officers from the police department at different intervals throughout the day. 5 sheriff's office deputies are going to assist after the fireworks with shutting down some roads. And then our beach services unit is worked into the equation, 7 of those on July 1st. And parking enforcement and our beach enforcement measures. So on July Saturday, we've got 10 officers and 7 beach services, and then July 3rd, Sunday, and then on July 4th, we've got 11 police officers and 7 beach services, and we have a plan that's laid out for traffic control and how we'll best keep the traffic moving in and out both ways. So July 1st, when we have, of course, that's our fireworks day, that we will have a offloading, and what that means is when the fireworks are delivered. So from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m., we are closing down Womble Street at Live Oak Drive, Barbie Boulevard, Ocean Drive, and Kazai and Ocean Drive. Those streets will be closed off from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Public Works is helping us with blocking off the pier parking lot during those times, and hopefully we have a very successful offloading. So we've got that. We have a plan in place to get that accomplished. So just a few points on July 1st. Parking on the roadway or private property is prohibited. So second of all, carpooling is encouraged. And lastly, no designated event parking. All town provided parking is first come, first serve. So we will have a massive amount of people to converge onto the town, and we will be as prepared as we possibly can. So our post-fireworks traffic flow, there will be officers strategically placed throughout the town. 58th Street will be the publicly divided line for travel off the island. So if you're east, if you park or you're watching the fireworks east of 58th Street, then you will exit the island off onto Middleton and go out that way towards 211. If you are if you are west of 58th Street, that you will go out on Middleton. If you are east of 58th Street, then of course you'll go on Long Beach Road. So what we're going to do is after the fireworks, the police is going to close off, and you can see the diagram here. We're going to close off the intersections and allow for free-flowing traffic to leave the island. So those intersections will be closed where you see the patrol cars to allow the visitors and the people leaving an access off the island without having to stop at red lights. So the last thing that I will say over that is I hope people can exercise some patience with us, and we will do our very best to keep the traffic moving. We've got officers in place. Assistant Chief Cook has headed this up and done a great job with it and with getting the resources and laying the plan in place so to move forward. So here we go, close to traffic on July 1st from 6:30 p.m. to 11 o'clock p.m. You'll see Sherrill, Barbie, Womble, and Kazai. Those streets will be closed during that time during the fireworks. Once the fireworks are over, then I just discussed the plan for the exit of all the vehicles. So there's our plan, a visual diagram of where your police will be on that night. And I think that will wrap things up. Okay. All right.
Great job, Chief.
Okay.
Oh, cool. Wonderful news, Chief. Thank you very much for everything you all are doing. One question, people seem confused. I always was told that a 911 call is for emergencies and accidents and life-threatening, but our system is dial 911 for Dune violations and parking violations?
That's correct.
Okay.
They can use that. That's right.
I thought so. Thank you, sir.
That's correct.
Chief, I take a special pride in what you're doing because it
it does show up very well. Lots of positive comments, well, not all, but lots of positive
Right,
ones.
right. I understand.
I promise you, I will not stop any more cars in my private vehicle.
And I understand, Councilman Blaylock, that you have counsel here. So that, so, matter of fact, you have two, one
Well,
on each side.
Along
So-
that line, I'd like to talk to you after the meeting about maybe borrowing one of the patrol cars out back and.
Yeah.
Dragging a golf cart down and stopping them in a police car are two different things.
Never mind then.
The efforts are greatly appreciated with your help with the police department. Thank you.
Just one quick question. For July 1st, I believe your presentation indicated that there are no designated parking spots. Is that correct? So like the town sticker, if someone's parked there without a sticker, you're not doing parking enforcement. Though
We've got
every
it.
spot's first come, first served.
That's correct.
Okay.
Right.
Just wanted to make sure people
That's
weren't
right.
calling for parking enforcement on Friday when all those spots are going to be taken up.
Yeah, that's, we just got to prioritize and move forward.
Please express council's appreciation to all of your staff. They're doing a great job.
I certainly will. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Mr. Eads?
Just real quick, as we've discussed and as was alluded to tonight earlier, the courts and the General Assembly, in my opinion, how can I say this diplomatically, have not been as user-friendly to municipalities over the last half-decade. A new case came down last Wednesday that had to do with standing and who has standing to attack zoning ordinances and who can testify as to property values, which I won't get into the minutia because I don't want to put people to sleep, but I will say that it is a more positive holding at the Court of Appeals in favor of cities and towns than I've seen in a very long time. And that's the end of my report.
Thank you very much.
Certainly, thank you.
Questions for Mr. Eads? That concludes our new business. Moving on to old business. The first is discussion of the development agreement for the Williamson tract. Mr. Eads, I'm going to pass
Yes,
this
ma'am.
to you.
By way of review, several months back, there was a request for a rezoning PUD approval modification. If you recall, we took a recess during that meeting, and staff and members of the potential buyer of the Williamson tract, as well as, I believe, the present owners met. We had a list of conditions reduced to writing and signed, and then our task was to move towards a development agreement to come back within 90 days. We had a workshop that was attended by you, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem Bach, Mr. Kraft, Mr. Kelly, Steve Edwards, myself, and several representatives from the developers. That occurred on May 26th. I believe it was very productive and cooperative. It was not, some of the issues we really kind of rolled our sleeved up on, but I think everyone involved could conclude that it was productive, cooperative, and we are progressing towards a development agreement. The original 90-day marker was to make sure this thing didn't languish. These things take time, so we're going to need more than the original 90 days, but we have had that meeting. And I believe Ms. Cheeks here in the audience. Would you agree with that assessment as far as the workshop?
Yes, Mr. Eads, Madam Mayor, council members and staff and members of the public. We are most appreciative of the good faith efforts that the town has put forth in having productive and cooperative meetings. And I really feel like that we're working towards a win-win situation for the developers and for the citizens of Oak Island. So we're very appreciative of those meetings. It's constructive. like you say, there's not always total agreement, but I think that there's really, really good compromise, and I think they're extremely productive.
And thank you, Ms. Cheek. And one of the things we talked about too is a lot of the things that people that are somewhat sophisticated in this area or trained in this area know certain things that that we're going to do a better job getting your reports and your studies to make it more available for the public so they can see exactly what's going on, so they don't feel like they're being held in the dark in any way. That was one of the objectives that we agreed on without any question.
Absolutely, absolutely, and we're working in good faith to try to produce everything that needs to be produced, because we do want to have it as an open forum for the public to be able to see what's going on.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Mayor and Council, I anticipate we'll schedule an additional workshop. I haven't consulted with Mr. Kelly about dates yet, but I can't speak for y'all that were in attendance, but I think by the end of the meeting, I felt comfortable that we were moving in a direction that's pro-town and pro-public and pro-developer, so that's the triple win. And I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have, but that's my report on that item.
Questions?
I do have a comment. I would just like to go on record saying that Mr. Eads represented us quite well. I appreciate everything you did at that meeting. We went with our questions and our concerns, but Mr. Eads asked our questions for us and took care of our concerns for us. We were in good hands. Thank you, sir.
I'm humbled. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So now, I misspoke earlier, now that concludes old business. New business. Consideration of the proposed FY 2022-2023 budget. Do we have a motion to accept the budget?
I make a motion to approve the fiscal year 22-23 budget ordinance and to set the tax rate at 28 cents, with 5 cents of that being used for beach renourishment.
Second. I'm sorry, second?
Is there discussion?
This budget has been discussed and discussed.
Ways from Sunday.
There is I just second. There
Okay.
is-
All in favor? It's unanimous. Good job.
Very good job.
Consideration of the FY 2022-23 fee schedule, which is pages 83 to 98.
This was also discussed during budget, wasn't it?
Yes.
Just so the public knows that we're not just breezing through this budget, we had many budget workshops.
6 to be exact.
I'm getting there.
So I do have a question about the fee schedule.
Yes, sir.
So the fees that we are contemplating approving were set based on comparative rates to other like communities. Would that be a fair statement?
Yes, sir. As you know, this year we broke out, during the year, we broke out stormwater from the building inspections. So we had Rick Patterson do the review for those fees, and that's what's being presented. We also had to separate out zoning and development services, and Matt and Steve looked at those and brought them back to us. And those changes, on the water side, you'll see that the 1,000 gallon or the usage increment, that rate is changing, but we kept the base the same. And then there's the charges for materials for the water taps and sewer taps. Those materials price have gone up. So that's what's reflected.
Yes, and we did discuss those. I would call those the headline pieces of it.
Yes, sir.
Which were discussed, as per Councilwoman Bell's point. But some of the other fees for permits, I'm just curious, have we pegged that to a comparative basis?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and the answer is yes.
And then one of the changes that we had, par 3 golf course, we added $1 because to make it even with the rest of them. It was just small changes that we made internally as well.
Also, during the workshop on fees, we had looked at the initial increase for stormwater, but then there might be an opportunity halfway through the
Yes.
year to bring that fee back down.
Yes, we would look at the rates that we're getting for new construction, inspections, re-inspections, and violations. And then we would look at those funds, as this is the first time that we incorporated it, to look at that through the mid-year, just like, we can always do that, we just can't reset the tax rate, like you said. But we can look at these rates or fees during the year to be able to see what we can change.
And as we had discussed in the workshop as well, if we determine that we need to continue the increase in the stormwater fee, it would be great to see the new stormwater engineer that's on staff now have a plan to present in regards to how improvements are going to be adopted and what their input may be around improvements to stormwater.
Yeah, well, you would, yeah, during our
How we would
discussions,
use those increased fees.
we had looked at having Rick come do a quarterly report.
Yeah.
And that way, we can also look at the sand revenues and stuff. Mr. Hatt's supposed to bring back that the first quarter, so we can see where we're sitting on most of these items.
Okay.
That would be great. Do we have a motion to accept the fee schedule?
I'll make a motion to adopt the fiscal year 22-23 fee schedule with the changes noted.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Thank you. Consideration of the FY 22-23 pay classification scale. That begins on page 99.
Yes, ma'am. The pay scales that you see in front of you, you saw that the county had done a study, you saw Leland had done a study, and we went and looked at theirs and ours and compared and looked at things. You will see a increase for the hiring range, midpoint, and maximum. We did change the hourly rates for some part-time positions to make them uniform across the board. And then we did a 3-tier for the seasonal camps. We have some people that's come back for numerous years, then we have some that's new. So we have that in there. And basically what we've done is raise the minimum wage for a new full-time employee, which would come in at pay grade 14. They would go to $15.77. So I think that will help us be able to be marketable more through the community and through the adjacent towns. We did add some new positions in the budget. We added a permit specialist 2. We added a zoning tech 2. We reinstated the community resource officer in the police department, and then we reinstated the master police as well. So a police officer will have somewhere to move to, and he can have 2 different tiers within the police department in the patrol division, the same as we do in the fire department. So I think those changes will benefit the town to be able to retain employees.
So, just for the public's benefit, once again, when we discussed salary ranges and salary adjustments, we did that in a normative way, trying to move in alignment with similar communities to ours. And thank you for doing that. So my question is not, is it normed, but my question is, are there areas where we still continue to lag and where we are non-competitive? Because it seems to me that we want to adjust this so that we're approaching the upper quartile of the range so that we can find police officers, firemen, et cetera. The specializations that we need are going to be looking on our salary scale and finding it attractive, because this is all about the quality of the people. So are there areas where we still lag?
I don't believe so. We looked at this is a 10% increase across the board. And when we looked at the market adjustment and the supplement check for payroll, then we started to look at what else we need to do for the pay grades to be able to equal the playing field like you discussed. And I believe the chief is comfortable now with the starting wage for the patrol, because now we cannot compete with Leland, but we can be above the other towns within our area.
Yeah, I certainly don't want to compete with Leland. And also, again, for the public's benefit, we had a discussion about CPI indexes and the extraordinary impact it would have year over year on personnel costs versus the core rate of inflation, which is what actually a lot of institutions use, which is, I think it's 3 points lower. And that's something that we can settle in the next financial workshop. And it seems to me that we need to move off of CPI, because if we go 10% year over year, we're going to have a different kind of problem than we have now. But
Yeah.
that's for a later day.
Correct. Well, we had discussed that, bringing something back in December
Yeah.
to start looking at before we went to the retreat.
Yeah, I think the core rate is because it takes out gasoline and food and some of the other things that are extremely volatile, gives you a more sensible look at the core rate of inflation versus the CPI index, but something for the future.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions for Mr. Kelly? Mr. Hatton? Do I have a motion to accept the pay classification scale?
Make a motion to approve the fiscal year 2022-23 pay classification scale as presented.
Second. Oh, you got it, Troy.
All in favor? Thank you. Consideration of increasing fines for violations of the town's dune protection ordinances. Mr. Kelly?
Yes, ma'am. I think actually Lisa and Brian worked on these.
Yes. The way the ordinances were written, and there's an ordinance amendment following, there were 2 civil penalty violations and then a criminal penalty violation. And with Mr. E's advice, we are changing that to just be all civil penalties. And then the amount would be, I think it's $100, $200, and $500. And of course, that could still be escalated depending on the severity of the violation. Anything else that you needed to add, Mr.
Well, I
Eads?
mean, there's a reason for the civil violations versus the criminal penalties. Number one, we have a very fine district attorney's office here in Brunswick County, but getting them to prosecute one of these misdemeanors, if they have full caseloads, I think the deterrent effect will be reached much quicker by civil violations, and it also dictates where the money can go once collected. Lisa, did you want me to elaborate any more? I mean, that was
Counsel, yeah.
that was the biggest change.
Any other discussion? Do we have a motion to accept the town's dune protection ordinances as stated?
I'll make a motion to adopt the amendments to section 14-127, 129, and 132 of the town's code of ordinances as presented.
Second.
I think, were we doing the fine first?
Doing the fines first, page
Previous page.
104.
Previous page.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Okay.
I didn't say fines, that's my fault.
You want to, go ahead. I'll do it. I make a motion to amend the fee schedule to set the penalty for the 3rd violation of Article 3, protection of sand dunes, sea turtles, and other wildlife habitat sand management projects, of the town's code of ordinances at $500.
Second.
All in favor? Unanimous.
Then that's fine.
All right.
Sorry, Sheila.
No, I got ahead of myself. I'm marked over here, but I'm not obviously marked well enough.
Okay, consideration of amendments to Article 3, protection of sand dunes, sea turtles, and other wildlife habitat, sand management projects. beginning on page 105.
We had asked Lisa to go back and start looking through some of the ordinances. I think her and Matt and Brian all have looked at these. So if Lisa would like to take this and go with the ones that she has found on the changes that she would like to make, or she is recommending, I should say.
Okay. Some of the changes reflect what we just did with the fine and changing the third violation to civil penalty. Other suggestions are, one of them is that we've always said that camping is not allowed on the beach, but never actually said it anywhere in the ordinances. So we recommend that that be added as well, so that we don't have people living on the beach. And then we also have recommendations to accommodate what has been allowed after this most recent dune project with accesses over the dunes. So the language that'll be in the ordinance now is what we had recommended to council, and it's just codifying that.
Lisa, clarifying where individual or shared beach access is allowed for beachfront properties and the specification for the access path?
Yes, sir.
What does that mean?
That means that after this most recent Dune project, it was determined that from 19th Place East to the west end of the island, there could be individual beach accesses from properties, provided they met the specifications that are laid out pretty much by the Division of Coastal Management. The properties could share a beach access, but it would have to be centered on the common property line, and that a property could only have one shared beach access. They don't get it on both sides. And that's information that we've been distributing to, yes, sir. That's information we've been distributing to the property owners so that everybody, once they have a path, that should also help with being all over the dunes.
Thought so. Thank you.
Shouldn't we be offering an incentive to share access so as to reduce the number of accesses over the dunes?
8 feet
They have a
wide.
wider path if they share one.
8 feet
That's the
wide for
incentive?
shared and 6 feet for non-shared is what we had set up.
4, I thought, was it 4 and 8?
That was 8 and 6.
8 and 6, okay.
I thought we did discuss this, and
Yeah.
We did.
we did, okay.
I thought we would consider further incentives, but we'll see if 2 feet matters.
Any other comments?
I just,
Go ahead.
well, I mean, the language is in there at page 108, subsection I. The town encourages adjoining properties to construct centrally located. But if we can always, staff can always explore additional enticements to encourage that. Sorry, Mr. Moore.
Well, perhaps we should look at how many shared access points are actually created and then think about this.
Yes, Courtney's working on this downstairs, and she has a list, an Excel sheet that we're keeping up with. So we should be able to give you sort of a rough number of what's happened and transpired so far.
And when someone wants to do a beach access, they go to Courtney's office to get.
Yes, sir. She does the permit, then she goes, does the inspection. The beach ambassadors and the beach services, they find people, they let people know, they need to go get a permit. It may be the renters, but we're getting ready to send out letters to all front road property owners from 19th to the west end. They were stuffed, I think, last week. Are they mailed out already? So they've been mailed out to the property owners to notify property owners what they need to be doing currently as well.
Right.
Excellent.
That takes away the magnet idea on the refrigerators that we were discussing earlier.
We'd already, we'd sent the letters out, but we can look at doing additional mailings.
Even if we only send letters to the realtors, the rental companies, asking that they make their renters aware of the rip current risk and where to find that information.
Yeah, we'll talk to Mike.
Yeah, just on your radar.
Any other discussion?
Just a question, because reading through this reminded me of a discussion that we had, and this is directed really more toward Chief Morris. Chief Morris, based on section 14-132, additional prohibited activities where we're adding the overnight camping, how many, or were there any verbal warnings issued to people who were not necessarily camping out, but had their shade or their canopies that were blocking either emergency access points or your staff's ability to patrol the beach. I know other beachfront communities, their ordinance is a little more specific in regards to keeping a path clear of obstruction with people on the beach. Ours, I think, is a little fuzzy. I think there's some gray area in there. So I was just curious, were there any verbal discussions over the weekend with items that may have been prohibiting safe passage of beach services?
Okay, so we have.
Chief, I'm sorry, can you go to the microphone?
You have been reprimanded.
I'm sorry.
She's hard.
It doesn't pick it up from there at all.
I'm teasing you.
That's her sweet voice to the town attorney.
Yeah, so for the public beach accesses, we have warned some folks that have been in those access areas. I do not have the exact number of that. In the categories that I presented tonight, I didn't capture. We have a other section that defines the citations. I could easily get that number for you if anyone has been cited for that. I don't think so. I haven't heard, but I know that we have warned people and told people to move out of the access areas as an educational point.
Okay. Would it be appropriate if you maybe take a look at this? It's item N in section 14-132, and maybe talk to staff and with Mr. Kelly and take a look at that just to see if we need to clean that up a little bit.
Yes.
Yeah, you see what I'm reading?
Yeah, we can look at it and bring something back to you.
Okay.
But right now, the beach ambassadors also are monitoring those. And we are getting ready to place some new signs on these accesses. Some of the emergency accesses, we're already changing the parking layout, doing some parallel parking on one side, and then doing the 45-degree on the other side to free up access. Scott did a few of them this week, and then we're going to do a few more next week. So we are looking at other ways to try to identify it and make sure people see what it is. And then we're going to paint the post that say that information on it. It's been orange before, but we're looking at painting it a different color because maybe people's gotten used to orange. Try to make it a bright color, at least draw their attention to be able to see what it is. And that does go all the way to the water. And the new signs that's Mike working on to get out there shows that it goes to the water. Now, other beaches have also areas from the toe of the dune waterward. You can't be within 15 foot of the dune for emergency travel. We all know that when the high tide comes up, that is the area that people are still in because that's all they got left. So I don't think we can go that far yet, but I think we can do better on his emergency accesses or access points, try to get something to work.
All right, good, thank you.
And unlike Memorial Day, Chief, I can tell you this weekend, Saturday and Sunday, from 46th to 29th, all the accesses were cleared. I checked them personally. It's my walk, my loop. They were all cleared. So something happened because on Memorial Day, you couldn't get any emergency personnel or vehicles down those. So someone's doing a good job already.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Chief. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to adopt the amendments to sections 14-127, 129, 132 of the town's code of ordinances as presented.
Second.
All in favor? Unanimous. Thank you very much. Request for an administrative report.
It's my item, Madam Mayor, and it has a July deadline, but the administration, I want to thank them for their expedited response. You heard part of it from the chief this evening. My understanding is they're already working towards signed ICS protocols, and we heard part of the immediate near-term parking strategy. So that'll be a follow-up report in July, and since the administration has agreed to give the report, we don't need to take any action on it.
Thank you very much.
I would like to add one quick comment regarding the parking line item in council members' box requests for report. Are we able to survey all of the beach access right-of-ways to make sure we're utilizing the full width of what is declared our right-of-way to widen those access points?
On the beach accesses?
Yes, sir.
Some of those we started widening this year. We only surveyed probably 20 this year. We were doing 20 a year to widen everything else because things have, over the years, shrubs have been planted, fences have been put up and those kind of things. Utilizing the drone has paid off on that because he's given us the aerial photos, so we're able to start seeing those areas. And those are some of the stuff that Scott changed this week for the emergency accesses. We were able to move some of the 45 degree over 5 more feet. So we're trying to get the full 50 foot. Yes, sir.
Excellent, thank you.
Bob, since this is your item, I believe, and I don't see it on the agenda, but at some point, we were going to discuss remote participation in meetings. Would this be a good time to address that, or was I supposed to address that in my attorney
That's at
report?
the pleasure of the mayor, yes. There has been some confusion around whether or not that is a permitted extension of our work. And I know you have talked to the mayor about your legal view of that, so if you wouldn't mind sharing it, that would be quite helpful.
Yes, sir. Is that the pleasure of the board and Madam Mayor? Well, I'm going to compartmentalize it. Obviously, COVID-19 threw us all off. The General Assembly wrote some new rules. With that came the development of technology that makes remote participation easier. That was good during that time frame, but my recommendations are going to be based on essentially non-pandemic situations of highly contagious viruses. I do not recommend that we allow council member remote participation for council meetings, and I can get into the reasons why if you'd like. And I'll just keep going unless you have questions. Since the Board of Adjustment is largely, or if not exclusively, the conduct of quasi-judicial hearings where people have to be sworn in and they're subject to cross-examination, if it's a variance application that requires a 4/5 vote, both I and I believe the School of Government put out some publications that recommended even during the height of COVID, to the extent you can postpone Board of Adjustment hearings so they're live, you should. So I do not recommend we allow for remote participation for Board of Adjustment hearings. When it comes to advisory boards that don't really do anything binding, that's a little bit of a different story. I would be willing to be more liberal or to recommend a more liberal policy on that, that you allow remote participation under certain circumstances, and I'll give you some examples, qualifying circumstances. If someone has a personal illness, if someone has unexpected out-of-town demands, like for a job, they can be in a hotel room, but they can't be in this room. If someone has a child care issue, if someone has an unexpected family member illness, if weather conditions present a peril or a danger, military service, if they're in the reserve or someone get called up, if you have an unexpected employment obligation that would require you to be out of town and not be able to attend in person. And of course, if we get into another situation, whether it be a hurricane, hopefully not another pandemic or some sort of a natural disaster, we could revisit the entire policy under that circumstance. So if it's an advisory board, I would recommend that you allow that under certain conditions. Number one, it has to be one of these qualified reasons. Two, that person can't be, he or she can't be the person that makes the quorum for that meeting. In other words, there already has to be a quorum there, and if there's already a quorum there, and the reason why is what if they get knocked offline for 30 minutes? What do you do then? So if they're not the individual making the quorum and they qualify for under these other unexpected, non-self-induced circumstances, that I think it would be advisable to allow remote participation under those circumstances, but no more than perhaps 2 to 3 per either calendar year or fiscal year. If you miss more than 3 meetings in a fiscal year, not saying it's because you're not dedicated, but something's going on in your life, most likely that we might need to replace you until things settle down. Secondly, I think if it's particularly the planning board, where they're considering an application that they're going to have to make a recommendation to council on, if someone's going to participate remotely, I think we should seek the applicant's consent and/or input and give them the opportunity to push their application that's going to be recommended for or against to this board, to either one, get it on the record, I consent to moving forward tonight, or 2, I'd rather continue it until next month, and hopefully we'll have everyone present. So that's kind of the broad strokes of it. I've seen other towns that allow council participation. All of that was pre-COVID. But regardless of what level you allow it, I don't think it should be unconditional. I think it should be limited in number. And I think we should give the members of the public that are most affected by it the opportunity to either consent or to request a continuance.
There was one more I think we discussed, Brian, if you don't mind me jumping in, that no more than one committee member can participate remotely at a time.
Oh, yes, ma'am. Well, I thought, you're right. I think the quorum most likely, well, you're right. We did discuss that. So that would go in tandem with you can't be, but there could be a situation where 2 people would be gone and still be a quorum. So yes, ma'am, you're right about that.
All right, thank you, council. Will you send that on to us so we can consider adopting a policy?
Yes, sir.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Does anyone have any concerns about the levels? It doesn't apply to the selected body. It doesn't apply to the Board of Adjustment, just advisory boards?
I think that makes common sense.
Okay. And obviously, this will be in a non-declared state of emergency situations. So,
And
Thank
you can give them that information at the July meeting or their review for the boards and committees.
Boards and committees and the Code of Ethics and non-compete.
but I think we call it a disclosure statement. Isn't that what we call it? I can't remember. I know what you're talking about, though.
Yes,
Thank you, Mayor and Council.
thank you, Mr. Eads. Consideration of nominations for the Trees to See Citizenship Award. Mr. Kraft.
This has already been established. It's time now to make it happen. What this is the Town of Oak Island Tree to See Citizens Award is an honor given by the town council on behalf of its residents to a deserving person in recognition of his or her selfless contributions to the Oak Island community through sustained effort in the realm of either leadership or community service. Recognizing volunteer service and also recognizing leadership service of our townspeople, volunteers and our local citizens. In the next week, I'll go ahead and get in the council members' mailboxes the names that have been given to me. So possibly we can go forward in July and have an award and get this concept started. Going forward, if townspeople would tell town council members going forward who they would like to see recognized and who they think are outstanding citizens and good people for our community that needs to be recognized, we will do that. But I just want to make everybody aware that we're going forward on this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Consideration of budget ordinance amendment. Mr. Hatton.
Mr. Hatton,
Still awake?
wake up over there, young man.
Just when he put candy in his mouth. Don't choke.
Yes, I've budget amendment for tonight's meeting is to transfer funds from the capital reserve fund to the general fund to pay for the purchase of a vehicle needed to supplement the town's administrative fleet. The purchase of this vehicle will allow for the replaced vehicle to be transferred to another department which is in need of a vehicle, but not necessarily a new vehicle. The amount of money that I'm requesting in the ordinance to be transferred is $42,000. And it will come from the capital reserve fund of the general fund. Any questions?
Any questions for Mr. Hatton?
This is going to be an electric vehicle?
No, sir. We considered it, but it was too much money.
Good answer, Hatton.
Long overdue. Thank you, David.
Do we need a motion? Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the request Mr. Hatton just made.
Second.
All in
Second.
favor? Unanimous. Thank you. And now we need a motion to adjourn.
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Charlie was
Excellent.
writing a recipe.
Thank you
going with me.
very much.
I like coffee.